Hey guys, Steve Welch here, Beaman Toyota, Nashville. I wanted to address with you guys some things that a lot of times people think when it comes to hybrids. And here's the thing, if you think this, you're not alone. There's a lot of people that think a lot of different things about hybrids, and I used to be one of them before I really understood exactly what they were. But there were some things that were true, but they're just not anymore. All right, so let's just kind of talk to a few things about some common misconceptions about hybrids and what the reality is. So follow along here. I'm going to go over, I've got a list of 12. If I think of more, I'll kind of talk about more, but a lot of people think that they cost more to maintain. A hybrid does not cost more to maintain. In a lot of cases, a hybrid actually costs less to maintain. I know that Toyota alone, they have a 10-year, 150,000 mile warranty on all the hybrid components. So that being said, 10 years, 150,000 miles, you are out zero if there is a malfunction with those components. So realistically speaking, that's better than the warranty on your engines, your transmissions, things like that. It's better than that. So the hybrid parts of it are not what could cost you money. Now, other manufacturers do other warranties, but most of them do at least 100,000 miles from what I can tell. So, but no, they don't cost more to maintain. The other thing I'll say too is that your brake pads. So when you have like the front brake pads on a vehicle, so your front brake pads will usually last somewhere around 60,000 miles. Your back brake pads will usually last somewhere around 100,000 miles, give or take, you know, how you drive, stuff like that. Change that into a hybrid, which would look the exact same as this car. Change it into a hybrid and your front brakes will last roughly 100,000 miles and your back brakes would last roughly 150. So why, it's the same brake pad. Why would that be different? There's something called kinetic braking. So it actually uses the hybrid motors to slow down the wheels as part of your braking system. So not all of the force of the braking goes on your wheels. So it actually makes it last longer. All right, so now a lot of people think that you have to plug them in. You know, a hybrid, I've got to plug in a hybrid, so that's why I don't want it. I don't have anywhere to plug it in, or I live in an apartment, I can't plug in the hybrid. Realize that the vast majority of hybrids are not plug-ins. There is a small thing like a RAV4 Prime, a Prius Prime, that offers a plug-in option. So you can plug it in, you just don't have to. So anything that is classified as a hybrid, so not an EV, an electric vehicle, you have to plug in, or a BEV, battery electric vehicle, that has to be plugged in. There's no gas engine. But anything that has a gas engine, meaning a Prius has a gas engine. You know, people think Prius hybrid, Prius has a gas engine, the Camrys, Corollas, anything that has a hybrid, anything that has that does not have to be plugged in. So I'm going to show you right behind me. This is a hybrid right here. All right, you can tell by this little blue hue on a Toyota if it's a hybrid, and you'll see there's nothing different between this and the car I just showed you. And that gets into another misconception. People think that a hybrid is an ugly car, and it's, you know, a lot of times people go back, well, the Prius is ugly, you know. And now Toyota's just came out with the new Prius, and their whole ad campaign on it is, now it's sexy. Check out the new Prius, see what you think, see if they're right on that or not. But that is the new ad campaign that I've seen, right? But a lot of times people think that it has to be ugly to be like a Honda Insight. You know, those definitely started out as an ugly car, right? So they think that, you know, in order to be a hybrid, it has to be an ugly car. That's not, right? But like I said, look, this is a hybrid. It looks identical to the other Camrys, right? Variations in trim levels, of course, but this is an XLE. If you have an XLE non-hybrid, it does not look any different than this, other than that blue hue on the emblem there and saying hybrid on the back, right? Nothing else is really going to be all that different. You have a little bit different on one of your dash controls will say eco, power, and normal, or eco, power, and charge, sorry. It's, yeah, that's it right there, right? So now another thing people think, well, if I get a hybrid, I got to drive it different. I can't, you know, I can't step on the gas. I can't, you know, I've got to coast. I've got to whatever. So people will read these forums, all right, and I've read them too, about hypermiling. All right, keep in mind, hypermiling is driving it special to try to get better fuel economy. You coast more, you brake at the, you know, you watch what you're doing a little bit ahead of time, right? You don't hit the gas hard to get up to speed. You all those little things like that, people call that hypermiling, and it started around hybrids. But realistically, if you do those things in a gas engine, just a regular car, it's going to get you better gas mileage anyway. So if you drive it better, yes, you'll get better gas mileage. That's with any car, right? So drive it better, you'll get better gas mileage. So you don't have to drive a hybrid any different. Like I said, you fill it up the same, you get in, everything you do on a hybrid is identical to what you do on a non-hybrid, all right? And commonly people say, do you want a hybrid or do you want a gas? And people think there's a difference between hybrid and gas. Well, it's either a hybrid engine or a gas engine. They think there's a difference. It's really not. It's hybrid or non-hybrid. It's really the easiest way to put it for you guys, right? So look at that. So now a lot of people think, and by the way, this is a hybrid behind me here too, and this Corolla Cross. So if you've seen a Corolla Cross, now this is an odd color, but if you've seen a Corolla Cross, you couldn't tell if this was a hybrid or not a hybrid. But this particular one is the hybrid Corolla Cross, right? But so a lot of people think they cost more to buy, right? So if it's a hybrid, it costs a lot more to buy. You're going to spend thousands upon thousands of dollars to buy a hybrid. Well, this one's 35, right? Your non-hybrid version of that, I think it's about $2,000 less, something like that. Your RAV4 hybrids are about $800 cheaper for everything else being the same. Your RAV4 hybrid is about $800 cheaper, or is $800 more expensive, sorry. Your Camry hybrid, it's about $1,000 more expensive. When they did the Avalons, when the Avalons were around, they were about $1,000 more expensive. The Tundras, I think, are like $2,500. Don't quote me on all of those. I know that I'm right on the RAV4, the Camry, and the Avalon. I'm right on those for sure. Corolla, same thing, it's about $1,000. So realistically, the price of the hybrid isn't that much more. Now you do, a lot of times people still do want to justify, is it worth $1,000 to me if I drive 1,000 miles a year? Probably not. I mean, you're not going to get that money back for just owning a hybrid, right? So who we got? Who we got? Probably good. All right. Anyway, so a lot of times people, so here's your next misconception. People think that the batteries don't last long, right? You're gonna have to change the battery at 100,000 miles. You have to change the, you know, the cables. You're gonna have to change all this stuff, and it's gonna cost you $10,000. You just throw the car away. Now, there's a lot of things going on about the battery electric vehicle hybrid or battery electric vehicle batteries. Those batteries are massive, right? Those batteries are a ton of cells. And yeah, if you charge it all the way up, deplete it all the way down, charge it all the way up, deplete it all the way down, and you keep doing that, yeah, your battery life's going to suffer. I don't know how long they're expected to last. I know that like the BZ4X, Toyota has the same battery warranty on the BZ4X as it does on the hybrid, the 10 years, 150,000 miles. But most of those are unproven as of yet. The hybrid's been out, right, in its current generation, because so current form that the hybrid has been out since really 99. All right, so 1999. It's been 24 years, right? And I will tell you, you see very few of them that come in with a battery issue that were built within the last probably 15 years. The first gens, the first, you know, adaptation at it with the bigger batteries and that, correct, they didn't last as long. But the current ones, they're definitely lasting as long. And if you realize this too, rule of thumb on a warranty is you always want to warranty it for half the time you expect it to last. That's how you don't pay a lot of money out on warranties. If you consider, you know, a company like Toyota, if they warranty it for 10 years or 150,000, that conceivably should mean that they expect it to last 20 years or 300,000 miles. Long enough, right? So, I mean, chances are you'll have an engine problem before you have a hybrid problem, right? And Toyotas, you know, tend to have an engine problem, but just saying, right? So that's part of it, right? So something else. Another misconception people have is they're harder to work on. Realistically, they're really not. They're about the same, all right? There's a couple of components, yeah, you know, the cables, the hybrid batteries, things like that. There are a couple components that are specialized to the hybrid, but it doesn't make them especially more difficult to work on. It actually, it's, you know, roughly the same. I've been a mechanic for a lot of years. I can still open up the hood on a hybrid and know exactly what I'm looking at, and I can work on the engine, change the oil. I can do all that stuff myself on a hybrid. I own a hybrid. Now, I will say that I don't change the oil just because I don't have time to. Not that I couldn't, I just don't have the time to change the oil, right? So, something else, people say parts are harder to get. Parts are hard to get for a lot of cars just because of, you know, the past couple of years with the part shortages. But realistically speaking, it's the 4-cylinder engine that's in this car right here is identical to the 4-cylinder engine that is in this car. Say hi to American. But the same 4-cylinder that's in this non-hybrid is the same. It's the same 4-cylinder that is in that hybrid. Where the difference comes into is basically how the transmission works, and obviously having that electric motor boost. So that's part of it. So that also leads into another misconception that the hybrids don't have as much power as one of those do, right? Well, that's actually backwards. The hybrids have more power in most cases than what the comparable non-hybrid does. So like in this Camry behind me, this one has 203 horsepower, right? It's 203 horsepower in that Camry. Your combined net horsepower in the hybrid that I showed you back here, 219, right? Same thing with the RAV4. RAV4 is the same engine. It's roughly the same with the RAV4. So by the time you consider that, you got a little bit more horsepower that's in there. Now, some of them are going to like turbo 4-cylinder engines. Now, I'll caveat back to like the Avalon. The Avalon had a 6-cylinder engine in the non-hybrid and a 4-cylinder engine in the hybrid. Well, the 4-cylinder engine did not get the same horsepower. You were, God, I don't know the number off the top of my head, but you're probably what, 200 and, God, I think 225, I think, in a hybrid Avalon, and you were 301 in the 6-cylinder version of it. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty close, so you can kind of get the idea. So yeah, the hybrid version didn't have as much horsepower, but per cylinder, it definitely had more, right? So because you're just looking between a 6-cylinder and a 4-cylinder, it was a different car in that aspect, right? So now here's the other thing. So some people think hybrids just don't last as long, right? You're not going to be able to get the longevity out of a hybrid. Now, I would make the argument that the battery electrics are more of an argument to say that they're not going to last as long as a hybrid is, just because, like the way Toyota does their hybrids is that if you have a hybrid battery and you were to charge it, or any battery, right, and you charge it all the way to the top, to the max charge that battery can hold, and then deplete it all the way to the bottom, to the lowest thing before it just shuts off, right? If you have that happen on any battery, you decrease the life of the battery. It's just, it's physics, right? It's just, anytime that you go all the way up or all the way down, you actually put the heavy strain on that battery, you're gonna decrease its life. So if you decrease its life, then obviously it's not gonna last as long. You got, oh nice, anyway, little private jet, or private plane. So what Toyota does is Toyota really doesn't let you get over 90% or down below 10%, even on the battery electrics, when it comes to charging the battery. Now on the hybrids, it seems like it's closer to like an 80-20. They keep you in this middle, like on my Tundra. It never shows a fully charged battery. Toyota does not want that to happen. All your hybrids, they don't charge them. They do not want a fully charged battery on a hybrid. Sweet spots in the middle, that's where you get your long life. That's why a hybrid with Toyota will last just as long as a non-hybrid. And I would venture to say with most brands, you're probably going to have the same answer on how long your hybrid will last as opposed to their conventional. So keep in mind, you might have something like some of your luxury brands out there, you know, and you can pick which one it is, but let's say they have a hybrid version of the same car you're buying, and if you realize that that normal version of it gets 120,000 miles before they have major problems, realize your hybrid version is probably going to do the same thing. Yeah, they're not going to overly engineer one or the other. I just don't see that happening. So realistically speaking, hybrid, non-hybrid, doesn't matter when it comes to longevity. You're going to get the same longevity, just depending on which brand you want to pick, right? So now the other thing that people say is that that you can't use it in bad weather, right? And that's possible to be the truth too, that you can't use it in bad weather. But the can't word is the strong word here. So you can use a hybrid in bad weather. Will the efficiency be there? No. So if you're in Alaska, right? If you're in Barrow, Alaska, you go up near north up there, and you have a hybrid vehicle, a regular battery up there is not going to get the same performance that it gets, you know, in the lower, right? Or if you're up northern Michigan, northern Wisconsin, is a hybrid going to be that much more efficient? I don't think so. Just because the weather extremes tend to work on batteries, right? Now, as the thing you might not realize is that when you have a hybrid, you actually have an air intake for the battery in the back seat. So now, once you warm up the inside of the car, the air that's going to blow over the battery is going to be warmer blowing over the battery, or vice versa. If it's, you know, 150 degrees outside because you're in the middle of a freaking desert, and you turn on the air conditioner on the inside, what the battery is grabbing, that air that battery is grabbing through the vents, is inside the car. So whatever you feel is what the battery is getting over it to cool it. So that's really a nice thing to know there. So but yeah, that's just kind of, you know, part of it. So oh, and back to the harder to work on, by the way, there are some batteries that you can replace single cells. So if you go and you replace a single cell on that battery, it could increase the life. Now, usually if one cell goes bad, more are going to go bad, right? So it a lot of times doesn't pay to just do one cell. You're better to do all of them if you had an issue, but realize you're talking 200, 300,000 miles in most cases before that's going to happen. But all these my opinions, of course, but they're based off of research, knowledge, and obviously being around them for a while. But what do you guys think? You think I was wrong on anything? Feel free to put it down in the comments. Like I said, I'm just a little bit off the cuff with a couple of notes that I just wrote down, but I'm just trying to help you guys to not be scared of a hybrid. There's no reason to be scared of a hybrid when you're going to buy it. But now I'm gonna do one other thing here real quick too. If you do the math on a hybrid, just realize that there is an extra cost to buying it, but I talked about this earlier. If you do the math, usually you're gonna find out, so let's say a RAV4, right? A RAV4 hybrid will get you 5 miles per gallon plus, but at minimum 5 miles per gallon better than a non-hybrid, all right? So if you drive, you know, 5 miles per gallon, let's just say that you drive, you know, a few thousand miles a year, 12,000 miles a year, realistically that 5 miles per gallon will probably save you between $50 and $70 a month in gas if you drive 12,000, 15,000 miles a year. Just, you know, realize that there is an equation you can figure out, and gas prices change. Obviously it's not a static number, but kind of the rule of thumb that I've always heard is that for an average driver, 5 miles per gallon will save you roughly $50 a month. So if, you know, you look at it, maybe that helps you to make your decision on whether or not a hybrid could be right for you or not. But I'm not trying to lead you either way. I just lead you to Toyota, right? But Steve Welch, Beaman Toyota, beautiful Nashville. You guys have a great day, and we're going to talk to you soon. Bye.